Well, thank you again for coming. We've had a number of these meetings. They're very productive. And of course, a lot of the work is going on outside of the assembled groups. There's conversations. We're getting advice from a lot of quarters and making decisions every day on what's to come next and how we should proceed to make the best decisions. We've been recognized in other parts of the country as having done a good job in South Carolina. The president has said so, the vice president, numerous times, as well as some who are now predicting the acceleration or the re-entry into the marketplace around the country have said that South Carolina is one of, I think, 6 or 7 states that seem to be positioned to do it better than others. And one reason is because we went into it with a little different way than they did in most of the other states. So just very briefly, I want to remind everyone that what we did was do a targeted, very measured approach. We want to do the same thing coming out. We determined, you remember, we reluctantly, every closing, every restriction was very reluctant, and as a result of a lot of thought and communication and advice. But we started with as you remember, the schools, then went to restaurants, and then we broadened out some, but not like they did in other states. We concentrated on activities and facilities that had crowds or a lot of close contact. Whether they were on the non-essential, whether they were considered non-essential or not. In a lot of states, they closed everything that was considered non-essential according to some group somewhere. We did not do that. We looked at those that had the close contact and the crowds, and those are the ones that we concentrated on, including these, just as a reminder, in the 4 categories: entertainment venues and facilities, the nightclubs, bowling alleys, arcades, concert venues, racetracks, bingo halls and things of that nature. The second category was recreational and athletic facilities and activities, and that was fitness and exercise centers, spas, group exercise facilities, spectator sports, things of that nature. Third area was close contact service providers, and that included barbershops, hair salons, nail salons, and so forth. And then the fourth category that we entered into later with a closure, but work from outside, that is deliveries and shopping outside the store at the door. Retail stores, the smaller ones, some furniture stores, clothing stores, jewelry, bookstores, flea markets. We discovered that in a lot of, for example, the clothing stores, there were reasons that we did it in other states. But you say, why a clothing store? And that's because we determined that people go into clothing stores and they try on clothes and they touch the buttons and they button up the coat or whatever it is, or the zipper, and they take it off and try on another one, and they're on, and it goes back on out on the rack, and the next customer does the same thing. In shoe stores, there are a lot of the big shoe stores have boxes, have the shoes on the shelves open for the customers to inspect as they will, and that's what they do, and they'll pull down 3 or 4 boxes of shoes and try them on, and maybe walk around in them, put them back in the box, and put the box back on the shelf, and the same customer comes in and does the same thing. So those were the areas that we went into, and we did so again in a very targeted area. And now we want to come out of there as quickly as we can, but also as safely as we can. Now, part of that is going to be dealing with what we're here about today. Right now, I just remind everyone, we have, I think it's 407,000 newly unemployed people. Last week, but we're going down every day. The number of new claimants comes in. Last week, there were 65,562 unemployed new people filing unemployment insurance claims. The week before that, it was 73,000 plus. The week before that, it was 88,000. Week before that, it was more. Usually, we would get about 7,000 in a week in normal times. But you see where we are now. And that's resulted in, I think the total is 407,000. So there are a lot of businesses that have cut their expenses, that are finding new ways to operate, and they're expecting their government to do the same thing. And that's one of the reasons that we're here. We must always keep that in mind. These funds, this money that's coming from Washington is not free money. We know we're getting $48 million for education, and then $1.9 billion approximately for state and local COVID-19 reimbursement. I want to emphasize, as we well know, it's not free money, it's not for growing government, it's not for creating new programs or expanding existing programs. It is strictly for the government agencies, municipalities, and counties using this to reimburse themselves for COVID-related expenses. It is not to replace lost revenue, tax money, fees, and other things that were lost because of the virus, but for reimbursements of money that was spent. So the questions are going to be, when all of this is over and we've done our work, people are going to want to know the rest of the economy, the private businesses were restructuring, were having new ideas, ways to get the job done with less money, with innovation, and what did our government do? This morning we've met in recent days with universities, for example, and they are looking into a number of new innovative ideas, ways to educate people and ways to cut costs. So we must be sure that what we're doing, we got to be dollar hawks on this and be sure that this money is spent wisely, is spent in a way that people understand it, is spent on things that are needed, and that none of it is wasted. Because as I say, there will be a judgment one day when all of this dies down to determine whether we did our jobs well. I know we have the talent to do it. We have the motivation to do it, and we certainly have the right attitude to do it. And I'm confident that there's not a better group, a better assembly of experience, brain power, understanding, and innovation that exists among the people here in this room and those that have been in this room before and will be again on this mighty task that we have before us. So again, I want to thank all of you for being here. I'd urge everyone to remember that the only stupid question is the one you don't ask. As has been said, please speak into the microphone so everyone can hear, including the people in the back. And with that, we'll get started.